something different today. I feel it's important as it's 30 years since the world had Freddie Mercury taken away from it. And I remember the day well, being a young apprentice floor layer. And the day had started very strangely in that in my first vehicle, my first car, if you like, was an old white transit van with an old cassette player in it, and I'd had like a mixtape on, and oddly enough, one of the tracks that had played on my way home to get ready for work in the morning, from somewhere else. I'll just say that, just from somewhere else. Queen's Who Wants to Live Forever played. I'll say it was a mixtape that I'd made in the days when we made mixtapes, and didn't really think much of it. And then going to work, was fitting carpet at someone's parents' house who I went to school with, and then obviously the news came out that Freddie had died. And it's such a tragic loss. But I think it's important to remember, as I've noticed over the passage of time with things like the Queen movie Bohemian Rhapsody and that, they kind of, I don't want to say that they rewrite history, they just gloss over the negative stuff. And I don't want to dwell on the negative stuff myself, really, because that's unfair to some extent, because Freddie Mercury and Queen were a fantastic rock band, a fantastic band, and growing up in the 80s, I mean, it's just that sort of my awareness at the point that Freddie died was sort of the 80s era, with a little bit of knowledge of, I suppose, all the classic hits that they wrote in the 70s. I've got some great memories. I mean, I remember really the first time I properly heard We Will Rock You as a song was a special birthday for my nan, and we was at my cousin's house, and my Uncle Keith turned up from Australia. No one knew who he was because we'd never seen him before. But the bizarre memory is like all my aunts and uncles and my nan all sitting around in my aunt's house singing We Will Rock You, which is a priceless memory. Brilliant. I mean, obviously, since Freddie's death, the status of the band and the legacy is just untouchable. Certainly from, I don't know, from our point of view in Britain, it's sort of an untouchable legacy, which is really bizarre, because I will always remember as well the hounding that Freddie Mercury endured and suffered in like the last year of his life. I mean, it is absolutely appalling. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was shock and concern when sort of the photos came out of Freddie when they shot the video for the Days of Our Lives. But it's really one of those benchmarks for how invasive the press were getting over a period of time in that era, that it was near constant in the tabloids. Just this niggling, biting, trying to get information or pressure on what was probably the whole band and Freddie's inner circle of friends about what was going on. I kind of, the way I remember it is it's sort of the second stage of 3 stages of press intrusiveness, because Kenny Everett had been harassed, Freddie was harassed, and then say it's sort of that continued and is much more highlighted in the death of Princess Diana. And there's just this sort of linear thread of how intrusive, bold, and without sort of any level of conscience that the tabloid press would operate. So I think, I don't want to dwell on the negatives, but it is something I remember well, and I'm sure other people, certainly people that were older than me. I mean, I was in the last year as a teenager when Freddie died, and people older than me that will remember Queen in different ways as well will also remember that sort of there was this horrific hounding of this great man. I mean, yeah, again, it was a different era, and we were a lot more tolerant of people's differing sex appeals or habits today than we were then. Plus, it was also I suppose there was a lot of hype and fear about HIV and AIDS at that point as well, but he was still a human being, a fantastic human being that the world is the poorer for not having him in it. I mean, he created a legacy at the point he left us, and we still today enjoy and love the legacy of Queen. But you have to wonder what else he might have done if he hadn't have been claimed by his illnesses. Who wants to live forever? The words are really poignant and have a lot of meaning, and it's good to remember what a fantastic artist Freddie Mercury was, and that he's missed. I'm just some average guy on the streets, not sort of someone who knew him, and it's always been quite remarkable and endearing to see how the band, particularly Brian May and Roger Taylor, have continued the legacy, and how they've stood up to the press and endured and respected his memory. I remember watching a documentary on Queen last year, and with it being with the Adam Lambert being a part of the band now. And I remember watching it and thinking that while they still, even Adam Lambert is deeply respectful for Freddie, it's sort of watching that documentary is just that sort of, they're hard shoes to fill, but I feel that Adam Lambert has filled them in his own way, but kept the respect for Freddie's memory, and is just an important member of the band as the original members, the founding members, if you like. But enough waffle. I mean, it's just that sort of, Freddie is deeply missed. He was fantastic, and if you get the chance today, or any other day, but today in particular, go listen to some Queen and have a good rock out to it, because, well, even if you watch Wayne's World, I mean, it's brought Queen to a whole new generation, really. Yeah, Freddie Mercury, we miss you, and thank you for everything you gave us. Cheers.